Hello, my name is Kai, and today I'm going to demonstrate my code points portion of the NBody project for CS61B. So for the code points for this project, I decided to add the ability to control a spacecraft that is subject to the gravitational forces of the objects in the solar system. In order to do that, I found a file within the project, which is a star destroyer, and I represented the spacecraft using the star destroyer. But first of all, and in order to go off from there, I decided to do some research regarding the star destroyer. So I went on the Star Wars fandom page. The thing is that there isn't an official canon source regarding the mass. So I had to do some research and there's a lot of fan estimates online. I decided to take the average for them and put that in the file. But this page happens to include the maximum acceleration at the maximum atmospheric speed too, which I also used a bit from initially in my project, but I ended up having to change some of the stuff. For example, when I took a look at the maximum acceleration, it was going really fast, and basically what ended up happening was if I pressed left or right, and to show left or right, I have a keyboard in the upper right corner of my screen so you can take a look at it. And what ended up happening was that when I pressed left and right or up and down, the spacecraft would just zoom away really fast, and you couldn't see it in the screen. So I had to reduce the maximum acceleration by several magnitudes. For the maximum atmospheric speed, what ended up happening was that it was way too slow to be able to discern it properly to discern it from the motion that it has, to discern the user controlled speed with the orbital speed around the bodies. So I decided to get rid of the maximum atmospheric speed constraint. So right now I'm going to right now I'm going to show you my terminal, and as you can see in my terminal, I also I had this new file included here, the data/planets extreme.txt, which is a slight modification from the original data/planets.txt. So in this data/planets.extreme.txt, I added an extra line which allows the code to detect whether there is a spacecraft involved. So that way the code can run properly with an extra spacecraft which the user can control. So right now I'm going to run it. Okay. So right now, as you can see, the user can change the movements of it. For example, I can decide to accelerate to the left with the left key, and accelerate to the right, accelerate up, and accelerate down. I also have to be careful that it doesn't zoom away from the animation. And what's interesting to note is that I can also try to keep the speed at a minimum, and which in this case would orbit around the sun, as you can see on the screen. As you can see, the spacecraft is being modified by the gravitational forces surrounding it, while it can also try to get out of the orbit. The orbit with the user pressing the arrow key, such as down, up, left, or right. And what's interesting, and they can also, you can also create various sized orbits around it. As you can see, I noticed while playing around with it is that most of the orbits I made with my spacecraft is elliptical, which makes a lot of sense considering that in the universe, most of the planets orbiting around the sun do create, most of the bodies orbiting around a star do create like an elliptical orbit. And right now in the terminal, you can also see that I have the final output printed with the data for the positions, positions and velocities and the mass, which is also a remnant from the original code that we had to do in our project. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed my modification for the NBody project. Thank you so much, and I hope you have a nice day.